Welcome, we're glad to have you again. Let's inspect this energy blade build. It's one of its kind ability, that converts around half of your maximum energy shield to create a weapon that has base lightning damage increased by the amount converted that way, further multiplied by 50% if you are using a two-handed weapon, but we have other plans for the offhand. Your equipped weapon will not grant any other bonuses except for the lightning damage generated by energy blade, but you can still use gems socketed in them. We're aiming for around 20 KES, which would result in a weapon with base lightning damage higher than anything else in the game. We are going to use Inquisitor with Battlemage passive, causing all that damage to be applied to your spells as well. As an Inquisitor, it is a great idea to allocate Righteous Providence and Inevitable Judgment too. We're going to make it a Cyclone COC build with a 100% critical strike chance. It makes use of the Coruscating Elixir. With it, chaos damage will not bypass your energy shield. That's important since almost all of your life is reserved. Most of the mana pool too. That's why we're also implementing Radiant Faith Keystone gained via a pair of Forbidden Jewels. The triggered spell of choice is Ice Spear, one of the best spells for a COC build. To make additional use of the reserved life and mana, pick Wrathpeath Globe Shield. It's responsible for a big portion of your total DPS with its bonuses to crit chance and spell damage. The combined ES gained from the Ivory Tower and Crown of the Inward Eye should result in tons of extra defenses. The build has a small chance to block spells and attacks. Elemental damage is mitigated with Ruby, Topaz, Sapphire Flasks, and Inquisitor's Augury of Penitence. Clear speed is bottlenecked by our movement speed and cyclone range, but it's still quite good. Single target damage is one of the highest in the game due to the base damage from the Energy Blade and Battlemage. The Amulet and Forbidden Jewels may be expensive. Nimis is great but not mandatory. Other items are all cheap uniques. We've used a lot of unique items since they all synergize with each other so well. You shouldn't need a lot of resistances anyway as you're using 3 flasks, each granting you fire, cold, and lightning resistance. There should be no problem with attributes as well. It's an attribute stacking build to benefit from Righteous Providence. Crown of the Inward Eye is one of the best helmets for this build. It fits perfectly. It not only boosts your life, energy shield, and mana but also increases your damage based on those 3 stats. It doesn't matter that all of your life is reserved. You can still reap the benefits of critical strike chance and spell damage sourced from Wrathpeath Globe with no drawback. You won't suffer life loss if you have no life left to lose. It can't kill you. The extra maximum energy shield per reserved life from the Ivory Tower is great, as you have over 6,000 of it reserved due to strength stacking and other unique items, resulting in almost 2,000 ES. The Stampede Boots make you spin faster, increases your mana regeneration rate, and cooldown recovery for travel skills. You can anoint them. Shaper's Touch, the best in slot pair and the only one that you should even consider for this attribute stacking build. It grants so many stats based on your attributes that it's nearly impossible to replace it with anything else. Also, try getting one with a good implicit mod. Cyclopean's Coil is the best unique belt for a lot of attribute stacking builds. Grants a lot of bonuses to all attributes, life, and mana. Don't worry about the elemental ailments, you're already immune to all of them. Use Rare Belt only if you need resistances. Eyes of the Great Wolf. Here you will need the modifier for increased attributes. The second one is less important. Global Critical Strike Multiplier, increased damage, and increased global defenses are the best ones. Nimis is unsurprisingly one of the best rings for this build. The returning ice spears will damage your enemy once again. Get the Balbala variant of Brutal Restraint for the Traitor Keystone. With it, you will be able to have 3 flasks up permanently. Get extra strength and intelligence from Split Personality Jewels. You will build your whole skill tree around them to squeeze out as much strength and intelligence as possible. Radiant Faith would elevate this build with the amount of extra armor and energy shield it grants. It fits here like a glove. Get 2 Forbidden Jewels with this keystone. Watcher's Eye can get you some powerful Wrath Aura modifiers. It also grants extra life, mana, and energy shield which all boost your damage. Lightning damage penetration, chaos resistance, or crit multiplier are the best mods. It's an attribute stacking build that requires you to get as much strength and intelligence as possible, so the gear will leave little to no space for experimentation. Overall, it's a cost-effective build, one that is definitely worth trying out because of various interesting mechanics and the most unique skill used. You may need some extra resistances or dexterity. You are going to equip any 3-socketed one-handed weapon, its stats are irrelevant. It's going to be converted to energy blade anyway, and its stats are going to be replaced with the added lightning damage from this skill. The ring is used mainly for attributes and possible extra resistances. Cogwork ring would work great here as you will need a lot of these suffixes. Most likely you will need a couple of jewels to get all the missing resistances or dexterity. Other than that, you can get extra crit multiplier, attributes, obviously, and life, or energy shield bonus. A large cluster jewel will be needed to accommodate 2 split personality jewels. Use it to gain resistances, defenses, and attributes. Coruscating elixir is a ruby flask that stops chaos damage from killing you. Very important. It should be automatically reused at the end of its effect via instilling orb. The other 2 flasks too. Get 1 sapphire flask with increased armor and 1 topaz flask with increased crit chance. You will need to increase their charge recovery, reduce charges used, or have a chance to gain a flask charge when you deal a critical strike. It will require proper prefixes. Ice Spear is your core source of DPS which will have its damage increased by your Energy Blade and Battle Mage passive. It deals cold damage, but you will deal mostly lightning damage due to Battle Mage, and fires projectiles in sequence. Use the anomalous version to pierce first enemies. Cyclone is a melee attack that is used to trigger your Ice Spear via cast on crit support gem. Cyclone offers the best on hit frequency out of all available attacks. Link them with greater multiple projectiles, inspiration, and increased critical damage. Use Wrath for more spell lightning damage, and added lightning damage to attacks. Clarity regenerates mana, an important resource in trigger-type builds. Vitality regenerates life, it's not really important and you can keep it at level 1. Linked spells will reserve life instead of mana with arrogant support. You should be able to afford it. Life is pretty much useless in this build anyway. Your mana reserving setup consists of 3 auras, each reserving half of your mana by default. Zealotry is one of the best DPS auras for this build which increases your spell damage and spell crit chance. Discipline increases your maximum energy shield which is a must-have for all Energy Blade builds. The Purity of Elements grants elemental resistance and complete immunity to all elemental ailments. It's needed as you don't have many rare items to get these resistances from. Link these 3 with Enlightened support to reserve less mana. There are 2 additional mana reserving spells. Precision boosts your critical strike chance and accuracy rating, you can keep it at a low level. Defiance Banner increases your armor and evasion rating and reduces your chances of getting critically hit. These 2 are cheap. Sniper's Mark. Enemies cursed by this mark receive increased damage from projectiles. Link it with Mark on hit support so that Sniper's Mark will be applied automatically against tough opponents. Keep Arcane Surge at a low level. It grants Arcane Surge buff for an increased mana regeneration rate and cast speed. Link it with Enhance 2 for an additional gem quality. Flame Dash is one of the best movement skills for this build, but Frostblink can be used too. It's an instant spell that won't stop your cyclone. Molten Shell is definitely the best guard spell here, it protects you from incoming hit damage for some time. Energy Blade. A build-defining skill that reduces your maximum energy shield by half, but that energy is used to create an extremely powerful weapon that you are going to use instead of your equipped one. With Battle Mage support, all that damage will be applied to your spells as well. You don't need to link it with anything. Kill all 3 bandits in Act 2. You will need these points more than whatever they're trying to sell you in their vain attempts to save themselves. Soul of Solaris is good due to the extra defenses. You won't need stun or freeze immunity from Brine King at all. You're already immune to these. Irakali or Lunaris may be good though. Chose them if you struggle with chaos damage or for a better clear speed. Soul of Gruthkal for an additional physical damage reduction for each hit you've taken recently is great. Shikari may be fitting if you don't like being poisoned. Ralakesh is good to combat bleeding. The skill tree looks like a complex entanglement because we're stacking up the distance between your starting point and the socket at the very end of it. First, go down to allocate Iron Will Keystone and Maximum Life. Here, near the Marauder's starting location, you can find a lot of strength and maximum life. Unwavering Stance is here too, it grants stun immunity. Follow the outermost ring and go up again where you will start picking up intelligence. Agnostic Keystone will be transmogrified into the Traitor. Get the Pain Attunement, and put your large cluster jewel near the Eldritch Battery. You will have the opportunity to get reservation efficiency and armor nodes scattered across the trail. Get the Life Mastery for extra 50 life, Attribute Mastery for 5% increased attributes, and 2 Reservation Masteries, for increased damage per aura and increased effective auras. And that's it. A surprisingly cheap build given how strong it is. Good luck with it and see you in the next video. Subscribe to the channel so you won't miss it.